The recording has started. Before the panel does start, I'm going to review the online accessibility statement, which serves as a reminder of resources that are available for all SNHU students. Your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible student experience. If there are aspects of your experience that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center, OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305-9430. You can also email at oac@snhu.edu or visit the Online Accessibility Center via your My SNHU portal. I would like to turn the microphone over to Kathy now. Kathy, the mic is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Gail. Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Homsky with the Office of Online Engagement, and today I have the pleasure of introducing our wonderful presenters and panelists. So joining us today, we have Angie Foss. Angie currently serves as the Associate Vice President of Innovation for the campus here at SNHU. Angie's background is in computer engineering. She launched her career in higher education, where she worked to better serve underrepresented students for the last 15 years. Angie's passion for fostering and creating safe, inclusive environments for diverse audiences has catapulted her work as a leader within SNHU's diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic goals to increase the number of women and underrepresented students within STEM fields. She has been at SNHU for over 6 years. Throughout her time at SNHU, she has held a variety of positions leading curriculum development, operations and equipment management, as well as innovation initiatives for SNHU's online and on-campus STEM programs. Angie's latest accomplishments are seen with the January 2020 opening of the new Innovation and Design Education building, which she has led for the campus. Angie continues to work on designing programs for the future, and she serves as a key team member and leader investigating the reimagination of place-based education at SNHU. Tiff Van Seal. Tiff joined SNHU in enrollment support services on Halloween in 2012 before stumbling into ITS in 2016. Prior to joining SNHU, Tiff owned a bead store in Hudson, New Hampshire, and stayed at home with her daughter for 6 years. During her time in ESS, Tiff took on a number of projects improving technology for the team. This led to an opportunity in ITS, which opened her eyes to the additional opportunities assisting in improving SNHU's tech stack and support model. She has her MBA from SNHU and is looking forward to starting as an adjunct professor for the global campus this fall. She's passionate about improving the ITS and business relationship and supporting the amazing growth that the university is experiencing. Stacy Gomez. Stacy is currently an IT project analyst at SNHU. Her role is a combination of business analyst and project manager, as the majority of projects she works on do not have an assigned business analyst. Before returning to SNHU, she was a master planner at BAE. In that role, she was responsible for managing the project plan for multi-million-dollar government aid for a multi-million-dollar government project. Before getting into a more technical position, she was an academic advisor for 5 years. She has a 1-year-old daughter and enjoys working out in her free time. Diana Mines. Diana leads the application operations team within ITS at SNHU. She has worked in IT for over 20 years at a variety of companies, from small startups to large companies such as eBay and Capital One. She came to SNHU in January 2017 because of a belief in the value of higher education and the unique vision and mission of the university. Diana comes from a family of educators and has herself worked as a high school teacher prior to moving into career in technology. She holds both a bachelor's and master's degree in mathematics, which has given her a foundation in systems thinking and problem solving, both critical in her current role at SNHU. One of her key drivers at work is to collaborate closely with others to get work done and to help others grow their careers. Diana is currently involved in the project to replace SNHU's student information system, with a more modern, flexible, and scalable platform. She and her team are involved in most of the large ITS projects. Carrie Fowler. Carrie is the Senior Director of Technology Services for ITS at SNHU. Carrie joined SNHU in 2014 and has held a variety of roles within ITS. Carrie's background is in operations management, service desk and call center design, project management, and networking. At SNHU, Carrie works with all teams across the organization to ensure that the service IT provides aligns with the core university goals and mission. Currently, under Carrie's purview are the Media Services Team, Asset Management Team, Technology Team, PMO, Service Management Office, and Capital Projects Relationship Management. Carrie lives in Manchester with her husband, 18-year-old daughter, and 2 dogs. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you, ladies, and I will now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Ooh, this is fun. Well, I'm so excited to be here, and I have to tell everyone who's joined that I've wanted to do a panel of the amazing and talented women here at SNHU who work in tech for so many years, so I feel really lucky that we're finally getting to do it, and I'm glad that you all were able to attend and make it. My name's Angie. You may have seen that in the slide deck, and those were awesome pictures of all of us. I wish, we could have those glamour days right now. I'm going to facilitate and moderate this panel, and we're going to hear from Tiff, Stacy, Diana, and Carrie. I have a set of questions that will get us started, and we may do some audibles and switch it up depending on how the conversation goes. And as Kathy mentioned, we'll have some Q&A at the end, so be sure to save any additional questions you might have for the panelists, because I'm sure they would be more than willing to answer them. I thought we could start. Those bios were awesome, but maybe we could add some more flavor and excitement about how we became to be working in tech. So I thought each of you, and I'll start with Stacy, and then I'll hand it over to Tiff and then Diana and Carrie, just because that's the way I see you on my screen. I thought you could each tell us a little bit more about yourself and, how you got into tech and what really excites you about working in tech. So Stacy, take it away.
Thanks, Angie. And those were really good pictures. So I was telling Angie I got a spray tan that day, so that's why I used that one. So I did not get a degree and have a background in technology, so it's actually a newer career for me. And I was an academic advisor for about 5 years, which I think I said in the bio. But I went to college and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I got a degree in psychology, and then I graduated at like a low point in the economy. So I was like, well, I can't get a job, so what should I do now? So I went back to college and I got my master's in counseling to be a guidance counselor because I thought it would be nice to have summers off. And then I did my internship with kids and I didn't like that. So it was kind of like back to the drawing board. So I got a job as an academic advisor, and it was fun for a while, but it wasn't exceptionally challenging for me, I guess. I needed something more. So I got a job at BAE as a master planner, and I really loved the job. It was a lot of fun. I learned a ton, but I didn't necessarily like the culture. It was very serious, a very serious culture. I can see why people stay there for the entirety of their careers, but I didn't. I needed something like a combination. So I ended up getting a job at SNU. Carrie hired me, and it was like the best of both worlds. I got to kind of take what I got at BAE and then be in like this amazing culture at SNU. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now. And I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, and I love that you're an example of someone who maybe didn't start out with the roadmap to tech, and there's still lots of opportunities for all of the students who are here today to look at tech as a potential career. So thank you. Tiff.
Hi. So I also did not intend to end up in tech, but here I am. I changed my mind like 17 times about what I wanted to do, and I'm still not sure that I know what I want to be when I grow up, but I love what I'm doing now. So I started after stumbling through college early on. I opened a bead store, which was also something I just sort of stumbled into and has no connection to technology whatsoever. And I had a great time doing that. And I thought when I got pregnant with my daughter, I thought, oh, I'll just bring her to the store with me and keep going with the store. And she turned out to not be the kind of baby that you could just bring to the store with you. And so had some challenges there. So I ended up selling the store, and I stayed home with her for 6 years while my husband worked. Um, After that, I had already been a student at SNHU, and I loved the experience. This was early on. This was 2011, 2012. I loved the experience, and so when I saw a job come up, I thought, oh, yeah, let's give that a try. So I started working in the enrollment support services department, supporting admissions. And there's a lot of technology involved in that, and very quickly I sort of latched onto that and was able to help with the system change that we did back in early on there, from CRM from Dynamics from EMIS to Dynamics, and really loved it, loved the tech, and then moved over to IT in the role of being a SharePoint system administrator, and then moved up from there. What I love about technology is the change. So I was one of those kids that, like, as soon as I could, I was like 3 years old, and I would go up in my room and close my door and move all my furniture around because it just had to be different, and I couldn't, have it too similar for like a month. So I know that probably doesn't make me popular with everybody because a lot of people don't like change, but I really enjoy it. And with technology, there is always change. You really struggle to be an expert in anything because by the time you're an expert, it's already changed, and you have to be an expert again. So for me, that's really, really exciting, and I love the fast pace of it.
Great. Yeah, it is. We all live in that world now too, right? Like everything's just changing every day. Right now we're in a tough time of change, but yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Tiff. Diana.
All right, so I also did not intend to end up in tech, though it was probably a little bit of a closer leap than it was for some of them. But I went to college and didn't know what I wanted to do, sort of like Tiff, and ended up with a degree in math. I then taught high school for a while and decided that I would love to teach college. So then I went to graduate school in math, and then I realized that I didn't love math enough to get the PhD. So what else could I do with my math background? And this was in the extremely early days of the internet, and it seemed like there was probably opportunity to do stuff there. And then I had an interview with somebody who worked in tech and had a math background, and he knew that my math thinking would lend itself well to tech. So he took a chance on me and hired me. When I got into the job, I thought, what are people talking about? I had no idea. But after a while, it started to sink in and made more sense. And what I do love about it is the problem solving. And in my role now today, things will happen, and people will get information from someone that something is broken. And so my team's responsibility is to go figure out what happened. And I like that. I like the problem solving. It can be a little frustrating sometimes, but overall I do find it very satisfying to solve problems. And that's one of the things I really love about being in tech.
Yeah, there are definitely lots of troubleshooting techniques in tech, right?
Yes.
And I do think it's fun to point out that math definitely has a strong influence in tech, and then there's a lot of folks that I know that can't stand math and still work in tech. So I like to tell folks who are interested, don't let math be your holdup, and also if you love math, great, come on in.
That's true.
So thanks, Diana. All right, Carrie.
Hi, I sense a theme, right? Nobody planned to do this. Maybe you, Ange, that was about it. Yep, so kind of similar. My path was a little bit different. I did not go to college right off the bat. And then I ended up really doing operations work for courier companies, for delivery companies, logistics and trucking companies, that kind of thing. And it was a very odd situation. My mom actually worked for what's known as an MSP, so a managed service provider. And they, an MSP will sell network gear or servers or that kind of stuff. And she said, we have this job and you really should come apply for it. And I'm like, I don't know anything about computers. I hate computers. It is not what I want to do. And she's like, no, it's not like that. It'll be fine. I also didn't. I wasn't looking forward to working with my mother either. So I took this job, and I was actually, I think the original title was service coordinator. So I was the person that everybody called when their stuff was broken. So I was the 20-something, 20, I think, maybe 21 year old answering the phone with the very angry people screaming that their stuff was down and that what could we do, and then I had to figure out what engineer to route it to, and I had no idea what it was. So then my job just kind of evolved through the years, and I ended up managing service desks and working for different managed service providers. And that was one of the exciting things, is because you're never, it's always different customers. Like, I've had so many cool customers over the years, like Legal Seafoods. I deployed all their phone systems up and down the East Coast, and Milton Caterpillar, the construction guys, those guys are awesome. It's super fun. I drove a bulldozer once. It was amazing. Just like really getting in and learning other people's networks, because it is always changing, as Tiff said. But when you're working for an MSP, you're never working on the same systems. You're always trying to solve different problems on different platforms. And then I actually left IT for a while. I left IT for about 5 years to do some different crazy stuff. And then I came back because that was boring. And I said, do I really want to come back to this madness? And there is a affinity towards it once you're in it, because there's an excitement of being an operations manager for so many years, and you're up and you're fixing things all night long, and it's a rush. It's like, I've heard about labor and delivery nurses that are just so psyched when the woman is about time to have a baby. Like, that's the rush. It's kind of the same thing in a weird way. But then you do get tired of that, FYI. And now I work on a lot of strategy and process development across the org. But problem solving, Diana, you are right on it. I hate math. I would still not consider myself mathematical at all. I do not think you need to have math in IT. And I also think that we underestimate. I say this to Angie all the time, and she's like, stop. But I don't even consider myself technical, which seems crazy since I've been doing this for 20 years, but I don't consider myself a technical person. I consider myself a very logical, analytical person that works in a technical field. And there's so much of that is needed within IT. Bring us back. We got to get that. Yep, we need coders. We need all those amazing skills. We do, but we also need analytical people that can relay the scientific, the engineering part of it into words that the business understands what we're trying to tell them. That is a skill that most engineers don't have. I always say that I went to school for early childhood education, never used it a day until I started working with engineers. And that is pretty much how I used that certification to learn how to coach them. So.
It is true. There's a lot of negotiating and translating. I will say it is funny, the theme. Just for all the students on the call, I definitely went to school to work in tech. And I would say of the 5 of us on this screen, I'm the least technical, right? Like I took my role in a different direction. So it's fun to see where you end up. And I think the problem solving and the excitement is definitely a draw in tech. So, all right. I'm going to combine the next 2 questions. So I invite each of the panelists. You can answer both. You can touch on a little bit of one. It's up to you guys. As many of us know or have maybe heard, or there's been lots of stories. I know there was a big one years ago about Uber. I was wondering if, as a woman in tech, you've ever experienced some of the negative biases that maybe exist and that we're still trying to combat as women. And then I also wanted to offer the opportunity for you to share any experiences where it's like a highlight, like there's just really great positive experiences of being a woman in tech. So feel free to reference both or to, share share something specific. So Stacy, feel free.
Get myself back off mute. So I've been really fortunate, I feel like, in that I've worked with a lot of great people over the years. Like I haven't really experienced a lot of people where I felt like I've been treated differently or negatively. I will give one example, and I won't say where I worked at the time of it, but I was in a meeting. This is like more than one occasion, but I was in a meeting and one of the guys just starts like throwing like a tantrum, like a hissy fit over like one thing or another. And being the only woman in the room, which is 9 times out of 10 all the meetings I'm in, I'm pretty much one of the only women. So being the only woman and managing the meeting, trying to kind of like keep my cool during it. And it's so hard because it's like a double standard. Like he's throwing a fit, having a tantrum. And if I were to even remotely act the same, it's she's just an emotional girl. Like, let's not listen to what she says, this little girl over here. So instead of losing my cool or engaging him at all, my favorite thing to do is just say, understood. And that's all I say. And sometimes that's it, and that can be the end of it. And then I think this time I had to say it like 3 or 4 times, just understood. That's it. And then eventually he gives up. But that's one of those things where I have found to be one of the more frustrating things is that double standard. Like men can act a certain way and women have to be calm, cool, collective, composed all the time. I feel like Carrie has mastered it though. She is very good at leading the room. I take notes whenever she's doing it. And one of the highlights I would say CETA 3. That was a super fun one because Angie was part of it. And at the end, it was all females that were leading everything. It was Angie and me and Christiane, the designer, and Marissa was the construction PM. And I thought that was a highlight. That was a lot of fun because most of the time it's always 90% men. So I liked it. It was a lot of fun.
Special. Yeah. And for the students, we were on a construction job site, which typically is like 90% men. And we were in a very formal sort of boardroom setting while we were on a construction site. And yeah, it was all women leading the show. So that was really, that was cool.
And like walking around like construction hat, just like miserable.
I've heard the okay as well, but I think understood kind of seals it a little better. All right.
So I am very fortunate to have spent my entire career in technology working at SNHU, where I have to say the environment has been very, very supportive. I think compared to a lot of other places, we have way more women in IT than you would expect to find. We're certainly not at 50%. It's definitely something to work towards, but ooh, my earring just fell off. But most of the experience that I've had has been with the folks at SNHU has been fantastic. Rarely has there been something that made me sort of, really? About that. Occasionally somebody will make a comment about something, but for the most part it's been great. Where I have seen some challenges is in dealing with vendors. So there are a lot of places that are not nearly as female friendly as SNHU is in the technology area, and there have definitely been challenges, and there's definitely been a sense of that good old boys club where there are the people that are running things, and they're gonna have their backroom deals and smoke their cigars and do other traditionally male things, and the women just aren't included. And so from the vendor perspective, I have been a part of that, and it's been interesting to watch and absorb what's happening when that's happening. I was on a call not too long ago, 16 people with a vendor, and there was me, one woman, and 15 men on the call, and I was looking at the screen going, because it was all nicely lined up, 4x4 boxes of men, and then me, and it was eye-opening because at SHU we are fairly fortunate. I think I'm not sure if everybody else would agree, but it is fairly supportive of women, and the women here support each other very much, and I would say that that's probably the highlight is the support from other women who are doing the same thing and who are making their way just like I am, and may have had different experiences with different challenges and know how to head them off. That's been one of the most rewarding pieces for me is really that. And I've never sororities are great. I have never been a sorority type female bonding, let's watch rom-coms and cry sort of person. Like that's just not me. And I have great respect for those who do. It's just not how I operate really. So it's been fun to be involved with a group of women like this who are so supportive and who maybe also don't want to sit around and watch rom-coms and cry into our ice cream. Although the ice cream part, I reserve the right to break that out at any point. But it's really, I haven't experienced too much negativity. There was one meeting with a certain individual who did shh me with the hand motion in the meeting, but I don't know that was necessarily because I'm female. That may have been more on him than on me. But definitely the support that we get from each other is a highlight.
It's true. And it's fun because everybody's different. Like I love having some of these conversations with my male colleagues, and I'm like, we are just as diverse as women, right? So yeah, thanks, Tiff.
Sure.
All right.
So, I was trying to rack my brain about some specific instances where I certainly have experienced bias, and I have. And, none of it has been, well, most of it has not been blatant, but there certainly have been some times. As both Stacy and Tiff said, it is definitely male dominated. There's definitely more men in tech than women, and that has been true every place I work. I'd say on average, it's about 25% women. And SNU's not vastly different than that, actually. I mean, Tiff might be working with more women, but that's been about what I've experienced. There's definitely been times where, sort of some of those stereotypical things will happen, where if I have an idea, it's not really heard, but then some man will have the same idea and it is heard. I know that I've had instances of that. I can recall some of them. There's also been some where, it's not okay for me to speak up and get emotional because that's the thing that a woman would do. Even though some guy might be doing it the same, it just comes across very differently. So I definitely have seen those double standards in action, and I have gotten through them by certainly having good relationships with other women who understand, who are in some of the same situations. Over the course of my career, I've learned to really stand up for myself more, and that was a hard lesson to learn along the way. But I had a situation a few years ago where it was not a good situation for me, and I was not having a good time with my boss at the time. But I stood up for myself, and I knew that I needed to take care of myself. And in the end, it all worked out well. But it's a lesson that I had to learn along the way. So I do have kind of a funny story. This was quite a long time ago. I was on a project that lasted about 18 months. And during the course of that project, there were about 30 people on the project. And again, 25% of them were women. All but one of the women on that project had a baby during the course of the project. Definitely a bonding experience.
Awesome.
That is cool. Yeah. Well, and I loved that you kind of highlighted that you had to go through it, like it was your journey that you were on. And I think that's true in probably a lot of fields, not just in tech, right? So thanks for that. That was really cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, similar to Diana, because we've been in the field for a long time, I started when I think I was 20 when I started my first job in IT. I have seen the gamut. I have seen all of the horrible the stuff that we see in TV and think that does not happen when it very much does. And I have seen the great. Like many of my mentors have been men because of the lack of female leadership that exists in IT organizations and has for the 20 years that I've been in it. There's very few females to mentor from in this field. They're coming. We're here, we're trying to get there. But it's just lacking. So I've worked for some wonderful men that have taught me so much and have been patient and kind and diverse. And I've worked for some horrible, awful people that are just, yeah, and I think, how do you get through that? It depends on the stage in your life, really. Sometimes when you have a young child, you don't have as many options. You can't just go because, they're dependent on you. I do have some call it a gift, some call it my curse. I have always spoken my mind, regardless of the situation. I will speak my mind. If you're asking me for an opinion, I am giving it to you, which in older days got me into much more trouble. And I think as you get more experienced, that is still very possible, and that can be done tactfully. I will say that when you are in a room like Stacy is now, when it is us and 30 construction men, literally, I have sat at a table with 30 construction men and just me, and they don't look at you, and they won't talk to you, they talk over you. I'm a little person, I'm 5'1". I don't have a lot of height, but I will stand up and ask the questions. You have to be assertive, and there's a difference between assertiveness and aggressiveness, and for a woman, there's a difference, and it's really about holding your ground and knowing your facts, and just own your conversations. Own it. If you don't know what the answer is, you just say, I don't know what the answer is, but I will get it for you, and it helps. I don't know how I dealt with it. I liked our point about, I can remember, so Diana and I have worked closely for a long time, and it started odd. It was just kind of crazy, like, oh yeah, she's going to work for you, and she does apps. I'm like, I don't know anything about apps. What are you talking about? I'm network, I'm hardware. What are you talking about? So we spent a lot of time at the beginning together, and then we were apart for a while. But then Diana was struggling with some things, and I think that's it. I think that we have each other's backs in a different way in this field, because we have to. There is less. I don't feel like I'm competing with any of my women peers or coworkers or colleagues. I just don't. There's no competition there. It's just, this is what I'm good at. This is what you're good at. How can we get better? How can we support the students in the university better, specifically at SNU? And there's a different kind of bond that I very much enjoy here, specifically here. And I don't think that exists. I think bonds exist, but it's special in technology. It's not the same, because you got to hold each other up. We are 31% female in SNU and ITS right now. 31% of our population is female in IT. When I started here, there were 13 women in all of IT. That's it. 13. It's crazy. Yeah. Twice.
So cool to see how we've grown. Well, I think you made a few good points, Carrie, that I just want to double down on or double tap. Some of my best mentors and most supportive people throughout my career have been my male mentors, and there are lots of folks in tech who are there to help increase the number of women, to increase diversity in tech, and you'll find them. That bond that you all are talking about and that support, it doesn't just come from women, right? You'll find those folks, especially once you find one, you'll find the network of folks. And I've had some tough run-ins with women as well in my day. Early on as a young software developer, there was a lot of pressure. So what Carrie just described about SNU's culture of not having that competition, at that time, there was only 3 of us female developers, and I didn't know this, but it was very competitive, and that hurt, and what that did for me was it just reinforced how I don't want to be. That's not who I am. And so anyway, I really appreciated, Carrie, that you highlighted that it's the bonds are important, the support networks are important, and those networks can look however they should or can or will, right? But yeah. Okay. Thanks, ladies. I'm going to do one last question. I'm going to combine it. I want to talk about change. I want to talk about the positive outlook for where we're headed, right? the only reason why we do these kinds of events is to help make change. And Carrie, you said it, like more are coming. Everyone on this call has the chance to be a mentor to somebody or to be part of that support network. So I just wanted to see if you can touch a little bit on some of the things that you may have noticed changing or the things that you'd like to see change and help support. And then any advice that you'd like to give to the students on the call today about perhaps their journey in entering tech. And, feel free to add things that you wish somebody had told you when you were making that jump. Okay, so feel free to mix it up, but let's.
I think women are being taken more seriously now. Kind of to, Carrie's my boss, so. But like, whenever I'm in a meeting, a lot of times I'll hear, or people will say like, ask Carrie. Carrie will make that decision. Like, Carrie's word is like taken very seriously. It's not overlooked, or people don't dismiss it. Carrie says approved, it's approved. Carrie said denied, it's denied. Like, and that's how it is. So I think that she's kind of paving a way for women, myself included, like just by her saying that she trusts my judgment or believes in me, other people do too. So, I've really appreciated that over the past couple of years. And kind of to piggyback on what we were just talking about, I guess my advice for women in technology or anyone in general is, other women aren't your enemy, and you don't have to tear someone down to build yourself up or to kind of climb the ladder to success. I think we need to build each other up, and we all kind of succeed together, and we can all kind of fail together too. So I think that's the best advice I can give. Just be kind to each other.
That's good. It touched my heart. It is so good. And I'm so honored to be.
Yeah, Stacy, I agree with what you said completely. In terms of not being in competition, that's huge, right? Like having that understanding with other people that we are all on our own journeys and we are all going to succeed, and we will cheer for each other when we do, and support each other when we don't. That's huge. There, way back, I don't know, a number of years ago, I read this article, and I think it was in HBR, about how men will apply for jobs when they are nowhere near qualified. Like they have, there's 17 qualifications, they have 2, and they're like, yeah, I'm a shoo-in. Whereas women won't apply unless they have like all 17 and then some. And that really stuck with me. And since then, I've read that things have changed a little bit in that area, but that really stuck with me. So when I'm looking at things, I sort of have this little voice in my head that says, if you were a man, would you do that differently? And I would love to get to the point where we don't have to have that little voice, where that's not a factor. I don't think that we're there, but I would say, piggybacking off of what Carrie said, boldness, be bold, not aggressive, but bold. That's one of the best pieces of advice that I think I could give to somebody that was starting off, and maybe some folks on this call would sink in for. The other thing is you got to be good, right? That's I think something that a lot of the literature supports, that women feel like they have to be better than men do to get to the same level as a man. And Steve Martin has a quote: "Be so good they can't ignore you," and I have that pinned up right above my desk because I think it's true, right? If you're good, it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. You're good, like that. You're good, and I think now more than ever that's being recognized. And I've even seen a little bit of a turning of a tide in terms of when there are like microaggressions or little things that are sort of anti-female in some way. Other men will pick up on that and be like, really, to a man who put something like that forward. So I think we are definitely moving in the right direction. But definitely be bold and be so good they can't ignore you.
That's awesome. Well, and I love that you highlighted, we don't have to be better, right? And we're in this together. So, but yeah.
All right, so more of what they said, of course. I have seen some changes. It's not viewed as so unusual for women to be in tech now. That's not to say that old boys club doesn't still exist. It does. Some places more than others. But there are usually some people around, men and women, but look for the supportive people who are there. And one thing I do have one piece of advice, and this has come up recently. I have children who are in college, and so they and their friends are all kind of looking for jobs and stuff. But if you find yourself at a place and the culture's not good, don't stay there. There is no reason to stay and put up with something that's not a positive place to be. And every single one of us talked about, previous jobs we've had, and we've moved around and whatever. And I've seen that tendency, particularly in young people who are in their first job, like, oh, well, it's not that bad. No, it is bad. Go on, move on to something else. SNU is a fantastic place to work, very supportive, very good place to work. People always have positive intent. And I can't say that about every place I've worked. So if you find yourself in a not great place, just move on. Time to go somewhere else.
That's great advice. Sometimes we feel stuck,
Yeah.
but it is a decision, and there are lots of great companies. Perhaps I will cite that as well when we get to the wrap-up section, but there are ways to look at how female-friendly tech companies are and companies in general, and so those are great resources that we all have now as well when we're looking for jobs.
Yeah, that was all awesome. So some of the changes that I've seen, I've seen this with Tiff and with Stacy. So they weren't in IT. Neither one of them were in IT. And the funny thing with Stacy is that her husband knew, and he wasn't in IT, and then brought him into IT as well. And here's the thing about IT, about tech. Let's say you go and you get your degree or life experience in operations management. It doesn't matter what field you do operations management in. You can do it in any field. Once you do it, it doesn't matter. And that's where I would love to see a million more women get jobs in IT and operations management, because it's how we think, it's what we do. We compartmentalize, we break things down, we say, yeah, I mean, you put your laundry in 3 baskets. You put your delicates here, your whites here, and your darks here, and that's how you wash them. It's no different when you're breaking up a network. Okay, this traffic goes this way, this traffic goes this way, and this traffic goes this way. That's it. That's all. It's the same stuff. It's just big, scary words. Don't be afraid of it. They're just other words. You'll learn the nomenclature. Stacy 2 years ago didn't know what fiber was, didn't know what a router was. Now it's like she doesn't even think about it. It's just, and that wasn't what, I wasn't looking for that when I was hiring her. I was looking for the right demeanor to sit in meetings with, yes, a lot of men, and be able to run the room and the skill set to get the risks on the table and, make sure we can run the task. That's what I was looking for. I didn't even care if she had IT background. It didn't matter. I needed a specific skill set. You can teach the tech. You can't teach, the amazing coding is like natural. Like there are just people that code and it's like blows my mind. And there's people that do ops and it's wild. It's just wild to watch that happen. So, I think some of the changes are that people are making these leaps into IT, maybe because they're bored, maybe because they see it as challenging, maybe because they see that the veil is coming down and it isn't scary and it isn't boring and we're not always stuck in the basement. And it also helps when you have a female doing space planning, so you're not stuck in the basement. But I think that that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen. And of course, yes, that many things still exist out there. They don't go away. But I'm proud of us for doing that. And I do think, take a course. Don't take like SQL or something. Take like ops or IT trajectory or strategy or something like that. But it is cool. It's no different. It's just like anything else. It's like the new, what was the old thing? I don't know. Anyways, I'm rambling, but yeah, go do it.
It was good. It was good. I loved that you highlighted where an individual's skill set can apply, like in tech, and that sometimes it is the scary words or the scary thought of math or whatever that limits our belief that we can do it. And it leads me to my one sort of enduring piece of advice. I've been given this advice for like the last 5 years, and that is show up exactly who you are. Like bring your personality, all this effort and energy around diversity in companies, especially in design and technology, is not there because you're supposed to show up and then become like part of the known stereotype or culture. Like when I worked at a video game company, they almost kicked me out because I didn't play World of Warcraft. I was like an anomaly, but that's what we need. We need the diversity. We need people to show up as who they are. So, well, thank you, ladies. This was so awesome. You've just fulfilled one of my dreams to highlight the women in IT at SNHU, and I hope we can continue to do that. And I look forward to hearing how our students are thinking about it and maybe their questions. But first, we're going to walk through some numbers. So there's an organization that we partner with, and I think Kathy or Gail is going to put up a slide for us to look through. So the National Center for Women in Information Technology is an association that's research-based. It's got a lot of interesting funding. So they're funded, every year they get different big corporate partners like Google. The National Science Foundation tends to give them a lot of grant money. And they're an interesting organization because their goal, and I will tell you this, I was at one of their conferences a couple of years ago, was that by 2020, we would have gender parity. And at the conference a couple of years ago, they were like, I guess we're going to be around a little while longer, which was, a little sad, but at the same time, they've done great work, and that's a great aspiration. So I share this with all the students and our IT ladies because as an SNHU, SNHU is an academic alliance member of the National Center for Women in Information Technology. So we've received a few grants, and we've done a few things with them as an organization. They have a ton of resources, but this is an example of one of their resources. So sometimes when I present or you hear other people present and numbers get rattled off about like how many women or what are we really talking about, it's fun to see how those numbers are continuing to change. And so about, I think every 2 years they update them. And this is a great example of a PDF, and I'm sure we can send out more information to all of you if you're interested. But you can find them just by Googling NCWIT. They have great resources on how to handle microaggressions. There's a variety of things. Even as a student, you can find like intro to computer science curriculum. So they're a really great organization. We can read off a couple of these numbers. I was surprised by the 18% of chief information officers held by women. Like that to me seemed high. So I'm glad,
That's crazy.
glad to see that. Carrie? Yeah, so that's, it's good to know the reality at times because sometimes it might feel like we haven't made progress, right? What else do we have in here? 26% of computing workforce who were women in 2019. That seems low, right? Like I wish that was much higher. 57% of 2019 bachelor's degree recipients were women. That's one thing that I tend to be part of that statistic at times, depending on my role. I had a technical degree, and my first few roles out of college after the software development were not technical, right? And so it's always interesting to see, why can't we retain women? There's a lot of data on that women tend to leave the field. So anyway, we will get more information out to all of you, but I encourage you to check out their website. They have great resources, and they can provide a lot of information if you're curious. All right, I think we're going to do Q&A.
But now we're going to take some questions, reflections for this amazing panel in front of us. Please type them into the chat box, and we'll do our very best to answer as many questions as we can in the remaining 8 minutes. And Kathy's going to help out with that.
Thanks, Misty. was cool. I think Diana said SNHU is a fantastic place to work, and that is one of the things, like, I'm BFFs with everyone in IT just because I like tech, right? And I haven't ever actually formally worked in IT.
You're adopted. We adopted
But they adopt me. Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun, and it's fun to support and help more people get into the field. Yeah, media marketing. Oof. There's so much. I don't know if any of you ladies want to touch on it, but I work a lot with our marketing department, and so we have a lot of digital. Help me out. Digital leads, and the, what is it called, Carrie? The Google search.
Click to blah, blah, yep.
Yes, search engine optimization, right? There's a ton in marketing. Like marketing, even when you get into things like AR, like augmented reality, that's like the #1 applied area or industry that's using augmented reality is marketing.
We just moved.
There's lots of opportunities.
So in one of our spaces, we had to move this. We have this. It's so crazy, you guys. It's a SAN, which stands for a Storage Area Network. Gigantic machine, just huge, crazy amounts of data, and it's for our marketing and media team. So it's all the videos that you see, the bus, the kids, the graduation, it's all of that stuff in this giant, they needed their own SAN. And because they're doing video editing, that stuff can't really, it could live in the cloud, but not really because there's too much pull when you pull it down. But it is one of the coolest pieces of machinery I have ever seen. And we had to move it like outside into a different area of the building, which was pretty crazy. Stacy did that like 2 weeks ago, which was pretty awesome. She didn't pick it up. I mean, she could have, but.
Just to add on to the marketing, it really is. You can be successful coming from any background in technology. It's really more about how you think. And Carrie was talking about this a bit before. It's really about how you think. And I tend to be a little bit less analytical and more on the creative side. And I found that to be an asset in technology because you do tend to have analytical people. So, and more on what Angie said, it's really more about being who you are, not trying to fit in that technology mold. Like, you don't have to go out and learn to play World of Warcraft. If you don't want to play World of Warcraft, don't play it. Just, play whatever you want to do. And I the only video gaming I do is Zelda and Mario Kart. But I will just want to reiterate that it's anybody coming from any background could be successful if they decide that they want to and if they're authentic.
Agreed.
Well, everything's technology nowadays, right? I mean, I feel like so many companies are just tech companies
totally
with some sort of label.
I also agree, Misty. I would also like to be the internet pilot. I don't know how many times a week I say, I can't fix the internet, but I can't fix it. So yeah, that's very.
We also had a great reflection we wanted to share in the chat. As a SNU employee who works with CSE students and advising, you are all so inspiring. And Tiff, I'm putting what you said up on my screen. Be bold and be so good that they can't ignore you. So thank you for that. We have some. Yes. Yeah, let me read it out loud here. So I'm really looking at sustainable development.
I don't know if you guys are reading Courtney's question
sorry
as
about
well.
That. Planning and sustainable technologies, pursuing my bachelor's in environmental science. I've noticed there's a really big gap in interfield efforts to address the transition from traditional energy production, traditional community planning, etc. It seems like pursuing a career specifically in tech and project management is my best to achieve what I'm looking to accomplish in the long term. What is your advice for a final year student working on qualifications and training specifically for project management?
I'm sure one of these two has some good advice. First of all, I just want to comment that start with your passion and then tech can come in at any point. So if environmental science is your passion, like get into it. You're going to bring a great perspective to that lens. And then I think to your point, you can get some specialty training around project management. And I know
Yeah.
I'm looking at Carrie and Stacy. I don't know.
I think that, so a lot of people ask me, especially my PMs, like, how did you get into project managing? And I don't even know the answer to that. I think I just like fell into it. Like somebody was like, we have to do all this stuff. Can you make us a list? And that's how it starts, right? And you're breaking it down into chunks. So I have a very, I'm super transparent, but I have a very different view on PMP, which is your, that is your project management certification. There's something that comes before that called I always screw it up,
The CAPM.
CAMP.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. CAPM, correct. I do think there's a lot of benefit in that course, and it gets you the information that you need. The thing with PMP is, and there's so many versions of project management, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the methodology is. It doesn't matter if it's agile. It doesn't matter if it's waterfall. It doesn't matter. It's about getting the task done. That's what PMing is. And I think it is a great way to get into a field. Like you can also start as a BA, as a business analyst, that like you're listening to the business and you're trying to get those words into something technical. But yeah, I agree with Ange though. Stick with your passion and then do some of the stuff on the side, reading up on PMs. You can learn so much about PMs, your PMP and all that stuff. Six Sigma is another great thing. I do like
project
that.
managers I've ever worked with actually started off
Yeah,
as a therapist, and he got tired of being a therapist and he decided to learn how to code, which he discovered he didn't really like. But he's stuck in IT and he became a project manager. And he said that he was able to put his therapist skills to work all the time as a project manager because it was listening to people, making sure they felt heard, understanding what their blocking things were, and helping them be good people and get their work done. Everyone wants to do a good job. So yeah, the project management skills are important, but if you've got the right sort of mindset that you want to help facilitate and get things done, it'll be a good fit.
And you don't.
So it sounds like we're going to do one last question. And I was thinking maybe Stacy and others, and I'm picking on Stacy because she just had a baby, and the baby's so cute. Danny was asking about, she hasn't worked since becoming a mother, and she was wondering if you had any tips about battling the super mom guilt.
Going back to work after having a baby.
About motherhood.
I went after like 9 weeks. So I didn't take much time off, and it was pretty brutal going back. But I think it's like a Band-Aid. You kind of just do it, and then it gets easier. Like each day you'll go back, and the guilt gets a little bit less each day. And I try to be a good example for her. Like I want her to want to have a career and make those choices. So that's how I try to think about it to make me lessen that mom guilt. And to kind of like talk about the project management thing too, I think you can learn a lot about it too just by different resources, but I think a lot of it comes when you actually start doing it. You can read all about it, and then when you try to apply it, it's a whole nother world. So I think just the more you do it and learn from other people, helps develop those skills.
For the mom question, ignore it. I think that's the best advice. Just if people are hating on you, ignore it.
Thanks, Tiff. That was a good last. Ignore it.
We're all moms.
Haters gonna hate.
Yep.
Got this.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for being here and for sharing your experiences. I'd like to turn it over to Gail to close out our session today, and thank you all again so much.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, everyone. This panel has been awesome. I love any tech conversation, so I've enjoyed being able to facilitate this. Thank you, Angie, Diana, Tiff, Stacy, and Carrie for sharing your answers, your experiences, and your stories, and for all of our participants for joining us on a Friday. The next session for the LEADS conference will be held tomorrow, Saturday, August 15th at 12 p.m. Tia Scott will explore the topic of mentorship a strategy in developing your career, and mentorship is a great thing to tie into women in tech, as every one of us could use a great mentor to explore. So thank you for joining us. We are so glad that you were here. Enjoy your day. Come back to the community, share your takeaways, and I hope you continue to enjoy the LEADS conference. Thank you all for participating.